and we start turn 3 with a new initiative phase. Once again, no player is ready to spend gold to increase their bid. And this time, the Gallic tribes are taking the lead with a 10. In front of the Roman invasion led by Gaius Julius Caesar in the Alps, the Gallic tribes have so far adopted a defensive stance. At this stage, they are still looking to achieve unification and reinforce their roster with more cavalry units that are needed to counter the Roman roster. They especially cannot afford a war as long as they are constrained in recruitment. For that turn, they are therefore not looking so much to expand in independent regions, except for taking back Vicus Veneti. In the west, they will see if the Roman armies dare to assault Gallic home regions, facing their red dice, and will then stand ready to counterattack immediately if that is the case. Given their defensive stance, taking the initiative does not make sense. They will be better off playing last and reacting to the events. They choose to make Carthage the first player and to play counterclockwise so that they will end this third turn. And we are now ready for a new agent phase, starting with Carthage. Because all the players have developed advanced subterfuge, they can all draw 7 agent cards, and their agents can play up to 2 cards per turn, moving between 2 actions. In addition to the willing volunteers and the inspired general he kept from last turn, Carthage draws an assassination card with Plague, a riots card with regional revolt, a steel card with U2 Brutus, a protest card with inspired general, and a spy card with beneficial winds. Okay, the Plague card again. Should he use it now or keep it for later? At this stage, the 2 obvious targets would be Macedonia or the Gallic tribes. In the east, he could target Antipatros in Anatolia, hindering his expansion while Hasdrubal will start marching east in Africa. In the west, he could target Dumnorix. He actually has a plan to attack the Gallic tribes with 2 armies, one marching from Iberia and another one using a fleet to disembark in Diarioridum to lay siege to the Wonder. The choice is hard. However, he remembers from the last game how widely Macedonia expanded in the east with no opposition, snowballing thanks to their economic power and growing stronger and stronger. On the contrary, the Gallic tribes are already at war with Rome. Okay, done. The Plague will be sent to Antipatros. And after an epidemic in the Balkans that halved Alexander's army during turn 2, that is the second plague that Macedonia must face during this game. Once again, Macedonia's army will randomly lose half of its cards rounded down, in this case 3 cards, with the 3-star general being at risk. The army randomly loses a Thessalian cavalry, Peltastoi, and his 3-star general Antipatros, who dies of the epidemic. Ouch! Another blow for Macedonia. They are really struggling to expand in this new campaign. They won the last game and now everybody is targeting them. For his regional revolt card, Carthage decides to play it against the Gauls, isolating ever more Vercingetorix, who now must conquer back 2 independent regions to re-establish a supply line with his home region. Then the Carthaginian agent in Lugdunum plays a protest, before marching south to Rome, where he ends his turn. The willing volunteers and the inspired general will be kept again, while the 2 other cards are sold for 4 gold, ending Carthage's turn. Macedonia draws a mercenary card with rioting, another mercenary card with prepared battlefield, a trade card with inspired agents, a treaty card with prepared battlefield, a trade card with beneficial winds, an assassinate card with allied tension, and a trade card with disruptive storm. Okay, a lot of trade cards, which is good, and the mercenary cards may be useful as well. The problem with the mercenary card is that none of his agents can reach a mercenary region and play the card during the turn. The only region he can reach is Crete, where he could recruit the best skirmishers of the game, the Cretan archers. But Philip and Alexander are already full of skirmishers, and Army 3 is an expansion army that won't see any battle soon, so skirmishers would be wasted on S rolls. Still, he may use 2 trade cards and have his agent in Carthage sail back to his home region for the next turn. Let's go. His agent in Cenabum uses a trade card. Both allies collect 6 gold from that trade. But wait. Rome plays a pirate raid card, stealing half of the gold from both sides. Rome ends up with 6 gold, while Macedonia and the Gallic tribes end up with 3 gold each. The Macedonian agent in Carthage then plays another trade card. This time both sides earn 5 gold. But, wait again! This time the Gallic tribes play a pirate raid. It is a less powerful card, only stealing half of the gold from one side. The Gallic tribes obviously target Carthage. Macedonia ends up with 6 gold, the Gallic tribes with 3, and Carthage with 3. After that trade, the Macedonian agent uses all of his remaining movement points to sail back to Byzantium. The assassinate and treaty cards are sold for 5 gold, and the 3 other cards, the 2 mercenary and the trade cards, are kept for next turn. In addition to the pirate raid card they already used, and to the sow distrust card they kept from last turn, the Romans draw a sabotage card with difficult travel, a treaty card with expert evasion, a spy card with difficult travel, a trade card with disruptive storm, and a trade card with difficult travel. Okay, the sabotage card is precious for destroying markets, but they need initiative to build it back afterward. Let's keep it for later. On the agent map, the agent in Carthago plays a treaty card. To counter the threat of the Gallic-Macedonian alliance, Rome is offering a proper alliance to Carthage. Hannibal is puzzled by this proposal. Well, who cares? Betraying an alliance only costs 1 victory point and, at the current stage, an alliance with Rome makes sense. He is anyway planning to confront both the Gallic tribes and Macedonia. The Carthaginian people accept the alliance with Rome and both factions upgrade their diplomatic stance to ally. The same agent then plays a trade card. Rome earns 8 gold from that trade and Carthage earns 7. Finally, the agent in Carthago sails to Thessalonica, where he plays another trade card. Rome earns 5 gold, and Macedonia earns 4 gold with that trade. The spy card is then sold for 1 gold, while the sow distrust and the sabotage cards are kept for next turn. In addition to the prepared ambush card they kept and the pirate raid they just used, the Gallic tribes draw a trade card with disease, a bribe card with catch enemy, a protest card with forced march, a sabotage card with regional revolt, and a treaty card with difficult travel. Same comment as for Rome regarding the sabotage card. It is worth being kept for when the Gallic tribes have the initiative. The Gallic agent in Athens plays a trade card. Both factions earn 6 gold with that trade. But wait! Rome plays its block agent card, preventing the Gallic agent from playing his action. The Gallic agent is then sent back to Cenabum. The other agent in Apollonia marches north to Iater, where he plays the protest card. The Gallic tribes then keep the sabotage and the ambush cards and sell the 2 other cards for 2 gold. And we now move to the taxation phase. Carthage raises 22 gold, earning 1 victory point. This adds to the 18 gold in the treasury for a total of 40 gold. Macedonia raises 23 gold, earning 1 victory point. This adds to the 14 gold in the treasury for a total of 37 gold. Rome raises 24 gold, earning 1 victory point. This adds to the 19 gold in the treasury for a total of 43 gold. The Gallic tribes raise 25 gold, earning 2 victory points. This adds to the 9 gold in the treasury for a total of 34 gold. Having built their wonder, both Carthage and Macedonia earn an additional income of 4 gold, while Rome and Macedonia lose 4 gold. Considering the wonders, all factions are leveled up, with Carthage once again being the richest faction with 40 gold, and Macedonia the poorest, but with still 37 gold, so not a big difference. And we can now start the 3rd campaign turn with Carthage. For this turn, Carthage will just quietly expand into independent regions, with Mago marching north and Hasdrubal east. On the campaign map, Mago starts by entering Saguntum, where he rolls 2 blanks. He then uses his last 2 movement points to cross the Ebro and attack Osca, where he rolls a blank and a skull, losing 1 Libyan spearman. In Africa, Hasdrubal marches east to Macamades, where he rolls 2 blanks, then to Cyrene, where he rolls a blank and a skull, losing a Libyan spearman, and finally to Siwa, where he rolls a blank and an X. Gisco and Hannibal are too weak to move, and Carthage ends his turn here. And now to Macedonia. Hit by another plague, Macedonia's options for this campaign turn are once again few. With only 3 main battle cards, Army 3 cannot take any risk. Philip may march north to submit some mercenary region, while Alexander should most likely keep his defensive stance for now. Philip then attacks Odessa, rolling a blank and 2 wounds, losing a hoplite. With still 4 main battle cards and little risk of being attacked next turn, Philip is wondering, should he risk Campasithe? With 2 yellow and a red, he is at risk of rolling 3 skulls. Okay, he may regret that decision, but let's try. The horse archers mercenaries will be helpful against Rome. Philip then uses his last 2 movement points to cross the Danube to Campasithe, where he rolls a skull, an S, and another skull. Ouch, that was close, but hopefully his army won't collapse. Philip loses another hoplite, a Peltastoi, and his Agrianian javelin man, and is now reduced to 2 main battle cards and 1 skirmisher. Now the question is, what will the Romans do this turn with their army for? March south to conquer Macedonian home regions? North to put pressure on Philip? Or east to cut his supply line by conquering Odessa? In any case, Alexander does not have good units in his army right now. Keeping the defensive stance and waiting for the Romans to move first is most likely the best option. The Macedonians then end their turn here. And it is now up to Rome. Rome has been playing aggressively up to now, but both the Gallic tribes and Macedonia have been careful to avoid any engagement so far. Macedonia looks quite weak in this game, while the Gallic are obviously a dormant threat. Caesar is perfectly aware that they are just buying time to develop their tech tree, and they may turn into a major threat soon enough. That being said, what should he do now? With the fleet nearby, Marcus Antonius can be brought as a support either in the west to Caesar or in the east to Crassus. Well, sailing east would most likely trigger a naval battle, threatening the army. Okay, Caesar does not like this, but he will have to play soft on the west, waiting for the Gallic to be willing to engage. On the eastern front, the Macedonian army too looks like an easy target after the heavy losses they suffered. Cutting the supply line in Thrace is tempting, but would expose Crassus to being targeted by all of the Macedonian armies next turn. He would be better off crossing the Danube north. Dacia is an infantry mercenary region, which frankly he does not need. Better to minimize losses and avoid it. Okay, Crassus then uses 2 movement points to cross the Danube to Singidunum, where he rolls 2 wounds, losing an Italian infantry. He then uses his last movement point to reach Malva, where he rolls an S and a wound, losing a Velites. On the western front, Marcus Antonius is embarked in Fleet 1, and disembarks in Massilia, where he rolls a wound and a blank. Marcus Antonius won't use his last movement point and adopts a defensive stance in Massilia. Fleet 1 is then sent back to patrol the Ionium. The Macedonian fleet does not try to intercept it. Finally, Caesar uses 2 movement points to march to Virunum, where he rolls a blank and a skull, losing 1 Italian infantry. Titus Labienus is then deployed in Perugia and travels to Iater. With only 3 main battle cards, the army is too weak to perform police action here, but with some reinforcements during the spending turn, he is ready to act as support to Crassus, threatening Macedonian home regions. And it is now up to the Gallic to end that 3rd campaign turn. So the Romans did not dare to attack them during their turn. Interesting. They also moved deeper in the east, with Crassus now deep below the Danube, and a new army standing in Iater. The Gallic tribes will develop unification this turn, which unfortunately means that the recruitment constraints won't be lifted before next turn. Should he dare attack Massilia? Is it worth risking it? Wait. Carthage is now a Roman ally, and they have been massing men in Iberia. It is hard to imagine them breaching a treaty only 1 turn after signing it, so those armies are most likely intended for the Gallic tribes. Critognatos may use his movement point to strike Massilia, with Dumnorix still protecting the Atlantic side. Critognatos doesn't have a bad army, but he is still a bit weak on cavalry, and the lowland won't provide an advantage against legionaries. Let's wait one more turn. To the east, Vercingetorix reaches his Macedonian ally. He may have a plan. With 4 main battle cards, he can strike Crassus now, if the Macedonians are willing to join forces. Philip declines the offer. His army is too weak and may easily collapse if facing any loss. Vercingetorix keeps debating. Joining their forces, they would have 6 main battle cards, a 4-star general and 1 skirmisher. Philip still refuses. He is not willing to give them more than a skirmisher, and this because he wants to avoid any chance of collapse. Well, Vercingetorix insists again. They will have quite a good roster with lowland, soldiery, chariot, companion cavalry, and Illyrian infantry. They must try it. Philip reluctantly accepts. Well, in any case, Vercingetorix will be leading the army, so he is the one at risk of dying during the battle, or after the battle when he will need to be rolling to submit the Roman region. If Philip army disbands because of falling below 2 main battle cards, Philip won't die and will still be able to reform a new army later in the game. Macedonia then officially declares war on Rome, and both factions update their diplomatic stance to war. Vercingetorix then uses 2 movement points to attack the Romans in Malva, and we are ready for our first battle of the campaign. Wait, do the Romans want to engage? Well, with still 5 main battle cards, 3 legionaries, 1 velites, Crassus may want to take his chance. Let's fight. The battle will take place in Malva, a battlefield with only 1 forest terrain element. A 4-star Vercingetorix is leading a coalition army with 2 lowland warriors, 1 soldiery, 1 Illyrian infantry, 1 chariot, 1 companion cavalry, and 1 Thracian cavalry. In front of him, a 3-star Marcus Licinius Crassus will defend with 1 Italian infantry, 3 Republican legionaries, 1 allied cavalry, and 1 velites. Being the lowest ranked general, Marcus Licinius Crassus will have to deploy first and reveal 1 unit. Vercingetorix draws 4 Tactica cards, 2 Take the Hill, 1 Devastating Fire, and 1 Skilled Deployment. He is unlucky with the 2 Take the Hill cards, as 1 will be useless for sure, and the other may turn out to be useless too, but the 2 other cards are good. In front of him, Crassus draws a useless bribe mercenary, a dedicated bodyguard, and a devastating fire as well. Same. 2 good Tactica cards, the first one being useless. Because the battle takes place near the Danube, a major waterway is placed on tile 7. We then draw the terrain element and get a forest element in tile 4, in the middle of the battlefield. That means that in this battle, tile 1 will be reserved for cavalry units only. Now Crassus must decide how to deploy. Crassus decides to send his velites alone into the woods. He then deploys his 3 legionaries in tiles 3, 5, and 6, while his allied cavalry is sent to the wing on tile 1. The Italian infantry is kept in reserve for now. He then only reveals his allied cavalry on the wing. Well, Vercingetorix is not a fool. He knows how dreadful the Roman legionaries are on a plain battlefield, and he knows that the natural counter to those is to send cavalry. He may then let the allied cavalry alone on the wing at least for the beginning of the battle. Okay. The Thracian cavalry, stacked with the companion cavalry, are sent to tile 3. The soldiery is deployed on tile 5, while the chariot goes on tile 6. Finally, the Illyrian infantry will go fight in the woods, while the 2 lowland warriors will be kept in reserve for later. Crassus reveals his troops. Vercingetorix is happy with his deployment and chooses not to use his skilled deployment card. And we are now ready for the fight. Let's start with skirmishers. On tile 3, Thracian cavalry rolls 2 blanks, missing their target. Vercingetorix uses his devastating fire card and gets a blank and a wound, wounding the legionary. On tile 4, velites roll 2 blanks as well. Crassus uses his devastating fire and gets a blank and a wound, wounding the Illyrian infantry. Time for the charge. On tile 3, the companions roll a wound and a blank, killing the legionary who rolls a skull and an S, killing the Thracian cavalry. 1 kill to 1. On tile 4, Vercingetorix uses his inspired fighter trait, adding a green die to the Illyrians' green die and taking no risk against the Velites as they already rolled their dice. The Illyrians roll an S and a blank, doing nothing here. On tile 5, the soldiery rolls a skull, while the legionary rolls a wound and an S. Both units kill each other. 2 kills to 2. Finally, on tile 6, the chariot rolls 2 blanks, while the legionary rolls a wound and a blank, wounding the chariot. The charge is over and the remaining skirmishers leave the battlefield. They've played their role. Okay, the situation is complicated for Crassus, as his army is broken in the middle and split on both wings. With only 1 reserve unit versus 2 for Vercingetorix, he is at risk of being flanked on both sides. First, Vercingetorix deploys his 2 lowland warriors on tiles 2 and 5. Then Crassus deploys his Italian infantry in the woods. Hopefully the companions cannot flank, as Crassus can move back his allied cavalry to tile 2. Vercingetorix is still left with initiative, as he is the highest-ranked general, and he will have 2 support tiles in the melee. Before starting the melee, Vercingetorix decides to use his morale booster on his chariot. Philip is not happy about that choice, but what can he do? The melee can start. Vercingetorix activates tile 3 as a support on tile 2. As the support, the companions will roll a black and a green die, the special effect being still active. The companions roll an S and a blank, killing the allied cavalry. The Gallic tribes take the lead, 3 kills to 2. Crassus then takes his chance against the Illyrian infantry on tile 4. His Italian infantry rolls a blank and an S, while the Illyrian rolls an S. Nothing happens in the woods. Okay, Vercingetorix can now hope to make the Roman army collapse. He will join tile 5 to add his yellow die, taking no risk here as he is acting as a support. Rolling as a support, the lowland warrior and Vercingetorix will roll a black and a green die, but the special effect of the lowland will remain. They roll a blank and an S, killing the Roman legionary. Left with only 1 main battle card, the Roman army collapses. That is a total victory for the coalition. The 2 allies share the points, getting 1 victory point each. The good news is that with that total victory, up to 2 units may be recovered from the death pile, which means that both the Thracian cavalry and the soldiery are back in their respective armies. 2 units may also be upgraded to veteran status. The coalition shares the benefit with the companions and the chariot both being upgraded. Finally, Vercingetorix may roll to get a 5th star. The Gallic general rolls an S, staying a 4-star general. What a victory for the coalition. Crassus ventured too far in the east and now lies dead on the battlefield. That reminds me of something. Vercingetorix must now roll for Malva, and gets 1 S and 1 X, facing no losses. Good. Unfortunately, Vercingetorix cannot move anymore. However, he is not too exposed. He cannot recruit during the spending phase, sure, but Philip can, so the coalition will be able to join replenished forces if Rome strikes back during the next turn. Thrilled by the victory, Vercassivellanos ponders. Should he now strike Caesar in the Alps? Well, he is not that stupid. Vercingetorix achieved victory mainly by playing cavalry against the legionaries, and Vercassivellanos has none. The only fight between soldiery and legionaries did not end well for the soldiery, and they are the most elite Gallic infantry. In addition, Vercingetorix's 4th star and the related traits helped him a lot against a 3-star Crassus. Attacking Caesar now would be a huge mistake. The kind of mistake the Gallic tribes made too often during our first game. Let's avoid that. However, the Gallic tribes should really find a way to reconnect Vercingetorix to his home regions. With Caesar moving a little bit east, Vercassivellanos may do the same. Vercassivellanos then uses his 3 movement points to reach Vicus Veneti, where he rolls 2 blanks, winning back the region. The Gallic tribes will keep their defensive stance in the west and end their campaign turn here. And we now move to a new spending phase, starting with Carthage. For Carthage, it is finally time to open mercenary recruitment. On the building side, Carthage spends 4 gold to build barracks in Scalabais and Dimity. They also spend an additional gold to connect Dimity with Nept. All of those buildings cost him 5 gold. Then on the tech side, he will develop artillery, quinquiremes, mercenary recruiter, and city militia for a total of 9 gold. Having completed the first tech column, Carthage scores 1 victory point. Now to recruitment. 6 gold are spent on Hannibal's army, which is reinforced with a Numidian javelin man, a Numidian cavalry, a war elephant, and a mercenary scutari who is recruited for free thanks to the tech tree. Then 5 gold are spent on Hasdrubal, who is reinforced with a war elephant and a mercenary Numidian javelin man. And finally, for gold are spent on Mago, who receives the last available war elephant. That is a total of 15 gold spent to reinforce those 3 armies. With 11 gold left in his treasury, Carthage must now decide if he prefers to reinforce Army 4 or his navy. Let's do both. First, he will use his Willing Volunteers card. He enrolls 1 Hispanic scutari for 4 gold, and gets another one for free. Both join Giscon in the undeployed Army 4. Then, he spends 6 more gold to enroll 3 ships, in order to have both of his fleets with 4 ships. Carthage then ends his turn with 1 gold left in his treasury. And now to Macedonia. With illumination, Macedonia finally has a more affordable tech tree. But let's start with buildings. Macedonia starts by spending 4 gold to build 2 barracks. One in Odessa and the other in Campus Scythia. Back on the tech tree, Macedonia spends 6 gold to develop phalanx, artillery, and mercenary recruiter. The Macedonians also earn 1 victory point for having completed the first tech column. And now we can turn to recruitment. Reviewing his armies, Alexander is not happy. He feels he has very weak units, especially the 3 hoplites, who are good units to sacrifice when expanding into independent regions, but who will have no chance in a war against Roman legions. Hopefully, Army 4 can be rebuilt from scratch and may then reorganize with Alexander. Army 4 recruits a Thracian Rhophaiman for free, using the mercenary recruiter tech. It then recruits a companion and a Thracian cavalry for 5 gold. 2 more gold are spent to reinstall Parmenion as a general for this army. In the north, Philip is then reinforced with a hoplite, a Peltastoi, an Agrianian javelin man, and a mercenary Scythian horse archer for 7 gold. In Anatolia finally, Army 3 is reinforced with 1 hoplite, 1 Peltastoi, and 1 mercenary Thracian cavalry, which as a mercenary is a main battle card and not a skirmisher, for 6 gold. 2 more gold are spent to enroll a new general with the mission of leading the expansion to the south. Ptolemy, a close friend of Alexander, takes the lead of Army 3. A total of 22 gold has been spent on recruiting, leaving Macedonia with 5 gold in the treasury. Knowing that most factions should achieve their wonder next turn, Macedonia may want to save that gold for later. And we now move to Rome. Caesar has always been confident about the strength of his men, but he has been unable so far to catch the enemy in a battle. On the other side of the map, this idiot Crassus has fallen into a trap near the Danube and destroyed a full Republican army with him, while Pompey has simply sunk with his fleet in the Mediterranean Sea. Nice. Now the Republic is in crisis once again, and everything rests on Caesar's shoulders. After their victory in the east and now that they have achieved unification, the Gallic tribes may grow bolder and attack Roman positions in the Alps. Caesar noticed that Vercingetorix mainly relied on cavalry to defeat Crassus, using his lowland warriors only in the melee to fix the enemy. Well, a smarter Gallic general is a worry for sure. However, unlocking the Marian reforms on the tech tree would unlock the imperial roster and their imperial archers, who may be the key to countering enemy cavalry. Let's see. But first let's focus on buildings. First, Rome is finally able to complete its wonder. 6 gold are spent to build the Colosseum in Roma. From now on, everyone will be collecting gold from Macedonia until they achieve their wonder as well. Still on the building side, Rome then spends 8 gold to build 2 barracks and 2 walls to reinforce the cities of Iater on the Adriatic coast and Iuvavum in the Alps. Finally, a road is built for free between Patavium and Iater, thanks to the road builder tech. A total of 14 gold has been spent on buildings, and 1 more gold is spent to perform police action in Iater, restoring order there. And we can now turn to recruitment. First, Caesar wants to recruit all available velites. He spends 4 gold to add 2 velites with Titus and 2 with Marcus Antonius. Then Titus Labienus is reinforced with 2 Italian infantry for 4 more gold. Finally, if Caesar cannot switch yet to the imperial roster, he may still count on some early artillery. 2 ballistae are recruited into the army of Titus Labienus, 1 ballista and a Scorpio with Caesar, and 1 ballista and a Scorpio with Marcus Antonius, for a total of 10 more gold. Rome is left with 6 gold and decides to spend it on the tech tree to unlock quinquiremes and onagers, ending his turn with only 1 gold left in the treasury. And now to the Gallic tribes to end that 3rd turn. First on the tech tree, the Gallic tribes will spend 9 gold to unlock noble cavalry, battle frenzy, and national unity. The barbarian restrictions still apply during this spending turn, but, finally, they will be lifted next turn. Okay, the new unit the Gallic tribes can now recruit thanks to their last turn's development is some heavy cavalry. Unfortunately, Vercingetorix is still isolated in the east and unable to recruit, and the 3 other armies are still limited to 2 main battle cards and 1 skirmisher recruited this turn. In the end, only 6 gold are spent on recruitment to enroll 1 heavy cavalry and a javelin man with Critognatos, and 1 heavy cavalry and a slinger with Dumnorix. The Gallic tribes are then left with an impressive amount of 23 gold in their treasury. Let's have a look at buildings. Nemassos and Euburzus are garrisoned and walled for 8 gold, and 2 more gold are spent to build bridges over the Seine and the Rhine. With still 13 gold in the treasury, the Gallic tribes decide to spend an additional 5 gold on the tech tree to develop transport and expert assassins, and 2 more gold to buy a new agent. The Gallic tribes also gain a victory point for having completed their first tech column. After performing a police action in Lugdunum, the Gallic tribes then end their turn with 5 gold in their treasury. Well, that is good, but they remember from the last game that it is easy to see a whole army collapse and that you can quickly run out of gold if you must constantly rebuild armies. Let's hope the Malva victory is the first of many to come. For each of the faction around the table, those 2 first rounds have been a lot about expanding into independent regions, building their infrastructure, and setting up their economic engine. The poor Crassus did not see coming the Battle of Malva, where the 2 distressed Gallic and Macedonian armies, those armies that he was chasing down across the Danube, surprisingly joined their forces to inflict him a humiliating defeat. Now this Malva defeat should trigger the global hostility on the map. Carthage looks finally ready for a full-scale invasion of Gaul. How will the Romans react? Will Caesar be able to take revenge for his dear friends Crassus and Pompeius? You will know it by watching the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching this playthrough and feel free to comment, like the video, share with your friend and subscribe. It really means a lot to me.